All right, we're good. Good job, Hannah. Can you make sure the mic bar is moving? So on the little screen, there should be a bar going up and down, up and down, up and down. Little bar on the bottom. Is it going? Okay. That'll be part of the recording. So bonus footage. All right. So we're continuing the fruit of the spirits. Some of you have been here every week. Some of you have been here some weeks. All of them are on YouTube except for last week. It'll be going up tonight because I goofed and didn't get it up last night. But it will be up. I got it ready to go up. I just totally forgot last night when I went to bed. But what fruits have we done so far? We've done 3.
I can do here for any of them.
Have you done them in order? You've done peace and love.
I was going to let them go before I go.
Love, joy,
So
peace.
you are doing them in order.
Currently we are. I'm enjoying them. So far they're in order. You never know when I might switch. We might go to the last one next week. You never know. So does anyone know what the next one is?
Peace, love, joy, patience.
Patience. There we go.
You said that.
What?
I read it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you read it. So we have patience. Now we can all agree that all the items so far we've talked about, love, joy, peace, are all very useful. I mean, if you have those in life, you're doing pretty good. Because I can tell you, I can be very not peaceful sometimes, and I can lack in joy. I'm normally pretty loving, but I can get in bad moods sometimes and be a little bit of a bear. Very, very slim, but sometimes. But those things are very useful. And like I said, we're going to go to patience. And this is one that a lot of people nowadays have none of. Does anyone know anyone who has no patience? You? I didn't know you didn't have patience.
I have no patience.
You're not going to be on YouTube pointing to yourself. I didn't know you didn't have patience. David's very patient, best I can tell. Well, I've seen him doing stuff. So a lot of people don't have this nowadays. And some people might have. Does anyone know someone who's like patient sometimes and sometimes they have no patience whatsoever? Just depending on the day and depending on the mood. I can have less patience some days, but I'm normally pretty patient. Has anyone ever just run out of patience? I do.
I never had it.
You never have it. I never had it to run out. I'm always on empty. So are you just always upset or what?
No, I'm just no patience.
I mean, what happens when you order food and it takes like 5 minutes?
He does.
Well, I get really hungry.
He goes into the submachine gun.
Okay, so there's different things that people have no patience with. I don't have that much patience. I have a lot of patience when it comes to people in general, dealing with people. I don't have very much patience when it comes with little children. All you know, I don't like little children. What?
They sure like you.
Yeah, because we have the same mentality.
My country.
So you guys are fine. I have plenty of patience with y'all. What?
She doesn't get to answer.
She doesn't get. Okay. So, like I said, I normally have patience with people, but sometimes there's a struggle depending. Does anyone have certain people that you have zero patience with? It's like I have those people too. It's like, oh boy, it's you, great. When you own your own business like we do, we have certain customers where it's like, oh, they're here. So now we know that the fruit comes straight from Jesus. Like, he gives us the fruit. We have listed love, joy, and peace, like I said. And it comes from our relationship with Jesus, how strong our fruit is. And if you can figure out all 9 of them, you've got it going on. I do not have it going on. I barely have 1 sometimes. But that's why we're working on it. That's why we're talking about it. He definitely had patience. If you read through any of the Gospels, Jesus had a ton of patience. If you have watched The Chosen, Jesus has patience. Uh,
Maybe it's not so much for the Pharisees.
yes, but and he had to deal with people constantly. Jesus did. And not just like one type of people. He had to deal with random people. He had to deal with his followers. I mean, he ran around with 12 different dudes for 3 years. You know he got tired of them sometimes. I sure would. And then he had a lot of other people following him too that the Bible doesn't name. I mean, he had more than just the 12 disciples. Those were just kind of his favorites. I couldn't tell you all of them. I used to be able to name them all. But he had people who were against him constantly. He had the Pharisees. They were all the time trying to trip him up. You've all heard about the Pharisees. They were jerks. And it seems like, I mean, he was fairly patient with them. I mean, he's Jesus. If he wasn't patient with them and he's Jesus, I mean, I guess he could just got rid of them. I mean, when you're Jesus, if you got impatient, you could just snap them away. Just, whoop, you're gone. But he didn't. He was pretty patient. So these people wanted to trip him up constantly. He was throwing all kinds of stumbling blocks his way, and he just answered them and went on. Where me and you might have back-talked them and made them very upset. He just used his words to kind of nullify their ability to do anything. And our words can do that too. I mean, your words can get you out of situations that could explode if you use the wrong ones. I mean, there's been plenty of situations where stuff have gone wrong, and people, if they would have just chose to think about their words, it would have went much smoother. Has anyone ever had situations where you...
What?
How are your words when you're not patient? I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know.
Has anyone had situations where you aren't very patient? Because if you're patient about something, you kind of wait. You kind of see what's happening, in my opinion. And maybe you have a little time to think about it. Think about your answer. And has anyone had situations where you was kind of upset and impatient and you answered up and then you're like, later on you're like, oh, why did I say that? I've done that. It's like, oh, if I would have just thought about it before I said that, it would have been way better. I've seen a sign. This is kind of off topic, but it goes with patience. Because in my opinion, if you're patient and think about what you're doing, it'll end up better. I've seen a sign in the mall that said, think before you speak. And think was, what was it? I saved a photo of it. Think was an acronym. It was, yes. Think. Is it, I'll have to look it up. That's bothering me. Sandy, do you care to go in the back and grab my cell phone off the thing? It's in this thing. I took a picture of it. It's in the sound booth. It's plugged in. I'll look that up and go back to it. But I can't think of what the T is. But like I said, he had tons of patience when it came to people. And something about myself. Most of you know I like to go fishing. Some of you might not know. Like some of you might be like, whoa, Grant likes to fish. Well, who knew? But fishing, who's been fishing? Who's here been fishing? Have you ever been fishing? In your head? Yes. You scare the camera?
I don't know,
Kinda. So who here thinks fishing takes patience? It takes some patience. Just
She
depends.
does not have fishing patience.
You haven't taken me in like 5
Because you
years.
I know how to
have
fish. I
You
just haven't
don't
done it
know
since
that,
I catch
dummy.
it.
So it's patience thing.
Go fishing.
There's a difference between fishing and catching. Fishing takes patience. Catching does not.
Exactly.
You like catching?
I don't know fish.
And of course, my think thing isn't going to pull up. Hopefully, I'll get it before lessons
You
are.
want me to take you to the back of the trip?
Nah, it's fine. So we all say that fishing takes some patience, especially if you ain't catching anything. I know people who like to fish, and if they ain't biting within 30 minutes, they're ready to go home. My father is someone, if they aren't biting, he is going to wait till dark. It doesn't matter. He is going to continuously fish. So, let me find where I'm at. Has anyone here ever got tangled up while they're fishing? Their line gets in a tree or in the water, under the water.
You haven't been fishing with me in years.
All right. So that is very, very frustrating, correct? And I will agree. That's frustrating. I hate when that happens. It's a pain. My thing's pulling up. Oh, think. There it is. I'm going to get this before it goes away as soon as it loads up. But getting tangled up is very frustrating. I am very bad when it comes to tangle up. I think of it kind of as a puzzle, and I just sit there and figure it out. And sometimes it takes longer to do that, but I'm so satisfied when I get it done. Like, ha, I did this. All right, be careful before you speak. Make sure to think. Is it true? There's your T. Is it helpful? There's your H. Is it inspiring? Is your I. Is it necessary? Is it kind? So all those, it was just a random sign I found in the mall. They had like a painting store where you like buy signs, and I just took a picture of it. I'm like, I'm not gonna buy your sign. I'll just take a decor store, but it was only pictures. Like they had random pictures of cows and stuff. They had a picture of a squirrel drinking a cup of coffee.
I want that.
Oh, I haven't seen that. In Lebanon? Or in Springfield? In Springfield? Huh. But, so like I said, fishing, you get tangled up. It can be very frustrating. So, like I said, I'm really bad about trying to fix it. And can tangle ups be fixed?
No.
Sometimes no.
I mean,
Sometimes use photo snaps.
if you want to work on it forever, I mean, I'm talking about tangles that you can see, not in the under the water. Because sometimes, if you can work on it for a long time, you can fix it eventually. It's just going to take a lot of patience and a lot of time. Is it going to be a fast project if it's really bad? No. At all. That's why you cut it. Dad constantly decides that it's not worth it, and he just starts cutting line and retying stuff. That's Dad's tactic. Like, oh, forget that. And he'll get mad at me sometimes when I'm trying to fix it for like 10, 15 minutes. He's like, just cut it. I'm like, I got this. But it probably is more of an option to just cut it off and figure it out like that. But when you go to cutting stuff, I have this right here. Does anyone want what?
The music is cutting in and out.
It's because my phone's way over here. Hannah, you can run that like 3 rows back.
3 rows?
Yeah, it'll fix it there.
Let me see.
I'm at the very end.
Did you get caught in your shirt?
All right, that'll work.
Give me.
Does anyone see this? Oh,
No, it's on the floor.
no, I didn't. This was my stuff I used in Florida, and I tried to fold it up nicely in my bag, and this happened on the way home. So this is, can we all agree that this is a mess? What? It'll take a hot minute.
Give me a try.
All right, so someone just said, oh, not long with a knife. All right. So if I start cutting this line here, cut the hooks off, and start retying it, what's going to happen to my line? It's going to get shorter. All right, so start damaging my rig, because this certain rig needs some length to it. This is what we call a pompano rig in the ocean. That's what they use mainly. These are kind of expensive. All right. So me and Brian got tangled up down there, and we decided to start cutting it at one point. We're like, we can just save the rig, which we could have. We cut our actual line and not the rig. But you take a chance of damaging stuff when you're impatient and doing that with a knife. Because at one point, you see this line, it's very clear, and our other line was colorful. And we was cutting away parts of our colorful line, and we didn't see one of these clear strands amongst all of our colorful line. And we took a big old chunk out of one of these and weakened it really bad. which was not good in the ocean because sometimes you hooked big fish that really went a long ways and you need the strongest stuff possible. Does anyone want to play with this? Don't cut yourself on those hooks. So, like I said, you take chances of damaging your gear like that. And those are not cheap. I'm hoping I can fix them. I don't know, though. So, you probably could get it out with a knife and fix it. But, like I said, it gets shorter and less usable at that time. So, I went fishing in Florida, and we went out on a boat. All right, these are called party boats. One of them was probably bigger than this room, if I'm guessing. The first boat we went out on, we met a deckhand named Willie. He kind of looked like a pirate. He worked on the ocean every day, and he was pretty funny, and I thought he was great. He liked me and Brian a lot. We were his favorites, I think. He just, every time no one was doing something, he would just come over to us and talk. But a party boat, how this works, why they call it a party boat, is you have a bunch of fishermen on it all at once. Private charter, you have like your group, so 3 or 4 people. Party boat, you pay your ticket on, they cover everything. We had 40 people on one boat, and it was a smaller boat. The one this size, we had 70 people on this boat. All right, so you're out there in the waves, this boat's moving around, they're trying to hover above fish, and you let down 40 or 70 lines straight down in the water. What do you think starts happening when your boat goes back and forth and you have 70 lines down there and we're literally this far apart? It starts getting tangled up. And that's Willie's job. Willie's job, they would cover up about 10 people per station. Willie was over 10, 15 people, and his job was to keep them untangled. So sometimes people, these guys, if you know how to fish, you're all right. They use really heavy sinkers. You drop them straight down and they bury in the sand, and then you stay there. So if everyone's doing it right, your line should be going the same direction. But some people thought it was cool to reel up off the bottom. So their line's down there going like this. Or some people would get a fish on and not know there's a fish, or they would try to play with the fish for a while and the fish is swimming in between lines, and where in reality you need to just be reeling it straight up as fast as you can. And there were certain people, because you're supposed to drop it straight down, there were certain people who would try to throw it out a little ways and it would drift around. Or there was one guy who would reel up halfway and realize there wasn't a fish, and by that time his thing's going back and forth, and then he would just drop it straight back down. So there's a lot of messes going on. And sometimes people would reel up and they have 6 different fishermen all at once. Lines are going everywhere. There's 2 hooks per thing. And sinkers, and they would yell at Willie and be like, hey, we got a tangle. And Willie'd come over there, no problem. He'd just start grabbing lines and separating it, and this dude knew how to do it. He had patience, but he could still do it fast. And I asked him about it. I said, wouldn't it just be simpler to cut it? And he said, no, this is my living here. If I go to cutting my gear, I'm wasting money. I need to fix this because it's costing me. So he stayed calm. If I walked up to it and seen 6 different guys all crisscross, sometimes people would get tangled up under the boat with someone on the other side. I don't even know how he fixed that. But they could fix it and do, I was amazed. And he would stay calm and fix this gear at a very fast rate. And like I said, he didn't want to cut it. That was his livelihood. He said, every piece of gear I cut, that cost me money. So, in the Bible, Jesus had to have patience with lots of people. Like I said, he had to have lots of patience with people's lives when it came with what they needed. Jesus dealt with people who were so messed up, the world would have just been like, it's a lost cause. There's no sense in having to worry about this. They're just done. Jesus dealt with people that the world throws away. Nowadays, the world still throws people away. You see certain people that you think, oh, they'll never be anything. Like, they're just too messed up. And like I've talked before, I went to that camp a couple years ago for the troubled teenagers from St. Louis. Those kids had such a messed up background. It was insane. People that the world would think would never be able to do anything. And God looks at them and thinks, I can fix that. That's no problem. God does not cut things out of people's lives. Like, he does not cut them off and damage them. God fixes. And Jesus dealt with sick people. Back then, if you was sick, you had done something wrong, and all of humanity ignored you because it's your fault that you're sick. Jesus did not think that. He dealt with the broken people. He dealt with the sinners. He dealt with the ones that the normal people were ready to kill, literally. I mean, we have talked about plenty of times about the woman caught in adultery who was getting ready to be stoned. And Jesus said, I'm not done with her. I can use her. And he ended up saving her life and telling her to go on, tell people about me. And he had to deal with people like the Pharisees. He had to deal with the mean people as well. Okay, I got you. But he never turned people away. I mean, you'll never find a spot where Jesus said, I don't want this person around me. I don't want to talk to this person. At one point in the Bible, you had a bunch of people bringing children to him. And the disciples said, no, get these children out of here. They're not important enough for Jesus. Jesus has got things to do. Jesus said, no, I love those kids. Let them come hang out with me. He didn't turn those people away. He still, to this day, is not turning people away. Shelby's got one down. It's getting easier.
I didn't know these were in pieces.
There's 3 different ones. So you got 2 left. But Jesus is still not turning people away to this day. And I'm sure if you think in your life, you can think of people who you would think they're too far gone or they're messed up.
God created beavers.
So you can think of people in your life or just people you've seen. I've seen people where you think, man, they are too far gone. And I'll be honest with you, I will still think that, that person's too far gone, more than likely. I can tell that to you now. But I know for a fact that Jesus does not ever think like that. He will always he won't always, because he's not going to force anyone, but he can always bring people back around. And he, at the same point, I mean, you can look at your own lives. None of us are perfect right now. None of us was perfect before Jesus got a hold of us. I've done things wrong. You have done things wrong. And Jesus still looked at us, looked at Hannah, looked at Shelby. Is there 4? Oh. Jesus still looked at all of us and said, I can use that one, no matter what situation you came from. No matter if you had a broken home growing up or you had a great home and maybe you just did things wrong, because all of us have probably done things wrong. And there are days that I can look at myself, and you can probably say the same thing about you, because if you're a Christian, you kind of know, like we know what's wrong and right. And there are days that I do wrong things and I know they're wrong and I still somehow end up doing them. And then you look back, there are days that I can think of. There's probably days you can think of as well. If you was God, you would lose patience with yourself. You would say, forget that person. They're a lost cause. I'm going to start cutting some line. But God does not think that way. God thinks that person's valuable. Just like Willie thought his line was valuable and his rigs was valuable, God says, that person, I created them. They're made in my image. And they have so much value that I'm going to, it might take a minute. It might take some working. But I'm going to work it out in their life and untangle what they got going on. And this all relates to, I'm rolling this back into patience, but it all goes together, because in our life as Christians, if we don't show patience, how am I going to turn someone back to Jesus? Let's say Ellen doesn't know Jesus, and I am just blowing up on people constantly because I lack patience. Because more than likely, if you don't have patience with people, you're going to end up blowing up on them and getting mad, and you're going to seem like a very unpleasant person. We have all seen those people. There is plenty of them out there. You can find them at Walmart. You can find them at work. You can find them wherever. And there's no way Ellen's going to think, man, Grant has something going on there about this church thing when I am chewing out Hannah just because she did something slightly wrong. You got to have patience with these things to be able to show God in our lives. And in my opinion, the fruits should all relate back to God. I mean, if I show love, that's going to show people God. If I show joy, that's going to show people God. If I have peace when things are not peaceful, it's going to show people God. If I have patience when some people think I shouldn't, it's going to show them God. And we need Jesus because sometimes you lose patience. We all agreed in here that we have people in our lives that you see and you're like, this is not going to be good because I don't have patience. Good job, Shelby. Shelby got all.
I'm going to pick up on something.
She got them.
I'm gonna go.
I think you just tangled that. Yeah.
I'll do it away. I'll do it away from that one. There you go. 1, 2.
But like I said, we have these moments. And you can probably think of more than likely the people you're losing patience with, they might not be Christian. If I'm losing my patience with a lost person, like I said, I'm not going to be able to show them Jesus. They're not going to think, man, Ellen just chewed me out. I think I want to ask her about this church thing. That's not how it works. And there's people who need Jesus out there, and maybe you're the person to show them that. Jesus is your light, and we have to share him. But be careful, because when I tell you this, to have patience with people, there is some situations where it is not your job. Because there are certain situations where I have seen people use the excuse, or maybe they thought this was right and it goes wrong, but they think, oh, if I don't be nice to this person and have patience and hang out with them, who else will? And I've seen people get involved with the wrong crowd. And the wrong crowd will drag you down before you lift them up quite a bit of the time. And in those situations, I always tell people, don't get caught in those situations when it comes to, you've heard me say this a bunch, but if you go to the wrong places like parties and stuff or anything like that where there's a bunch of lost people that are going to try to influence you, don't get caught in those situations. Take that person, invite them to church, invite them to somewhere around your family. If you have a good Christian family. I mean, I know Hannah's family. They seem pretty great to me. And if she has a friend, she invites them over to her house. If Hannah has a friend that has a really troubled background and needs Jesus, but they're struggling, Hannah shouldn't really, in my opinion, be going to her troubled household and being wrapped up in her family or their family, because that could be hard on Hannah. The only thing Hannah's family should be doing to the person if they come to Hannah's house is lifting them up, not bringing Hannah down. And I will tell you, there are certain situations where it's very rare, but you just got to get out. The only thing you can do for certain people is pray. You should not be in that situation. And if there's ever been a situation where you think, man, what if I'm the only person that can do something here? You are not. If God needs you, and he actually needs you, that lowers him to a level that is not God. God needs no one. If God needs someone, he is no longer God. God needs no help. God allows you to be used because it feels good to do stuff, but he doesn't need us. And you can look back at different stories where it says, hey, I don't need to use you. I mean, Esther, she was willing to be used, but she wasn't. God didn't need only Esther. Esther's cousin told her that God will use someone else if you don't step up. And sometimes it's not your part. It's hard to see those situations, I will tell you that. It will feel bad sometimes to step away from people. And I don't suggest stepping away from people unless you feel led to. There are some situations you need to handle with just prayer. That is straight up how you do it. I have seen people who are recovering from stuff and they get involved back in the same people that they was trying to recover from, and they get drugged right back down. And the same thing can happen to you. I'm telling you right now, not to sound like a downer, but if you think you're stronger than some sins out there, you're not, especially not by yourself. Like I said, take the person you're trying to be patient with and get towards Jesus somewhere where they're going to be influenced. Great thing. Invite them to church. I've had friends that are very lost and I don't really want to do a bunch of stuff with them and go hang out where they want to hang out. I've got them to come to church. Hey, come to church. Okay. I ain't got nothing going on this Sunday. Why not? Church is not a place you're going to get influenced badly, I hope. I don't think it is. Yeah. But you're making a bad choice when you're trying to influence someone and you try to make them your best friend when they're not good for you. Surround yourself with people who are going to be good for you. You can look around this group. I think most of us are going to be good for each other. And I'm sure you can see in your friend group. Does anyone, if you're willing to, I'll be the one who raised my hand, but does anyone know people who are kind of in your friend group, maybe not your closest friend, but they're in your friend group, who are not great influences on you if you hang around them a bunch? I know people like that, where it's like, oh, I probably shouldn't hang out with this person because it's not the best idea. And normally those type of people I hang out with more of my friends who are going to be a positive influence. In my opinion, you should not go to situations where I would never suggest. I have certain friends that if they invite me to hang out with them and their other friends I don't know, I don't go. Don't go where you're the only one surrounded by a bunch of darkness. Get you a bunch of lights to go with you. And like I said, God can work on anyone's life. They're never a lost cause. And sometimes, like I said, I've said it a couple times, but I want to make sure to emphasize it. Sometimes the only thing you can do is pray for that person. You can pray for them and ask God to bring them back around. There's nothing wrong with that. And God hears our prayers. God loves that person. Like I said, He looks at their life as value. And He wants to save them just as much as He wanted to save you. I went off on a rabbit trail. Give me just a moment. All right. So, I found it. Like I said, God sees each of us, because any of us can raise our hand to, if you're going to sin before the weekend's out. I will raise my hand. I'm going to jack something up. And like I said, God sees you just like He sees anyone else. Valuable. It's just like Willie seeing his line, like I said earlier. He sees you as something that's unreplaceable. I mean, Willie was not going to cut any of those lines because he knew that's what he needed. And I lost my words. I had a point. I apologize, guys. But I don't know where it went. I apologize. But think about in your life, do you have patience where you need it? Because I'm telling you, when we lose patience, there is one awesome thing that we talked about during the armor lessons that you can have that really helps with your patience. What could that be? When I'm running out of patience, what can I do? What? Pray. I can pray about it. If I ask God for patience, He is going to supply me with what I need. I was talking to a friend of mine who has anger issues the other day. I said, have you ever tried when you feel yourself getting angry? Because they're like, I know I'm getting angry and I just can't do anything about it. I was like, have you ever thought about just praying about it when you get angry? And they're like, no, not really. I'm like, you know you're getting angry, right? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, just stop and pray about it. Calm yourself down. Same thing can happen when you're running out of patience. Sometimes you're running out of patience, and I'm not telling you to drop down on one knee. I'm just telling you, just in your mind, Jesus, I need some patience. Help me out here. And He's going to supply you with that for sure. So I've made this a quicker lesson, but that's okay. So can I have everyone just bow your heads for me? Nobody looking around for me, eyes closed. And Hannah, could you reach up and just grab that camera and point it upward for me? So just grab the handle. You might have to loosen it. Oh, there you go. That'll be good. So no one looking around. We have talked about patience tonight and how it can help us, how it can supply us with an opportunity to show people Jesus. And in my opinion, patience can help you with other things. If you have patience, it's going to help you with your joy problem. It's going to help you with your love problem. If I'm not patient with someone and angry about them, I lost my joy, and more than likely, I'm not very loving right now. And there went 2 other fruits because I failed at this fruit. So this fruit is a great place to start out. But if you know you have trouble with having patience with your family and your friends, any situations like that, and you want help with that, you know that sometimes your family sees you in this mood where you're not showing much Jesus. I don't know all your guys' background when it comes to your houses, and I don't know who's watching this on the internet. You can raise your hand too. But maybe you are the person who's going to show them Jesus. Sometimes us as younger people have to influence the older generation because they're just not listening. But if you need more patience with your family and your friends, maybe you get upset at your mom or your dad when they tell you to do something, or they get on your nerves a little bit, or your friends do the same thing. And you know you struggle here, and you want to have patience there, and you want prayer for it, and you want to be serious about it, I want you to raise your hand for me. Keep them up for me for just a moment. All right, go ahead and lower them. All right, so I have 2 other things, and these aren't really about patience, but I'm still going to ask them. All right, so sometimes you are the person. I talked about 2 different things tonight. I talked about sometimes it's not your position to try to be patient and try to stick with someone. Maybe that's really going to be hard on you, and it's not your spot to do. And God can handle it. You're not going to mess up God's plans. You're not that big. God can handle his own thing. But sometimes it is our position to share God and show people God. But maybe it's scary. I will tell you, it's a scary thing. Like I said, I talked to my friend this weekend. She got saved. It was kind of scary. And I'm someone who talks about Jesus a lot. Sometimes that can be a scary thing because you're not quite sure how they're going to take it. If they're going to take it negatively or they're going to take it great and accept Jesus. But you want to have the ability to share God when someone sees that fruit in your life. If you have these fruits, someone might see it and ask you, what is the difference here? And you want to be able to be brave and see and hear the words from God, what you're supposed to tell that person, how to share God and tell them how you're different. And you want to be brave about that. Go ahead and raise your hand for me. And you can lower them, thank you. And I have one last thing. This is more of I just want to do this and remember this. This isn't really ask prayer for it, but we can pray for it as well. But maybe you do have a patience problem or anything like that, and you want to remember what Jesus did in the Bible, what he did for you, where he found you, that he's not going to cut your line. He's not going to cut whoever you're trying to have patience with line, because he sees them as valuable. He sees them as unreplaceable. They're his children just as much as you are his child. He created all of us, from the people who the world sees as worthless to the most valuable person on the planet. But he created all of them, and he loves us all equally. And we want to remember how he dealt with people in the Bible and how he can help us have patience. And you want to be able to think whenever you're running out of patience, you want to be able to ask God, hey, help me out in this situation. I need you because I am not able to do this on my own. But you want help in those situations. Go ahead and raise your hand for me. Keep them up for just a moment. All right, thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and pray. Lord, thank you for all the blessings you've given us. Guide and direct us and use us. Bless the ones who raised their hand tonight, that they want patience with their family and their friends. They want to be able to show you. They want bravery to be able to talk about you and tell people about you. They want to remember how you dealt with people and how you can help them deal with people even today. They want to remember how valuable they are and whoever they're dealing with is. Because sometimes us as humans, we like to think we're a little bit better than others. And in reality, to you, it's all a blank slate, Lord. We are all on an equal playing field. It just depends on whether we know you or not. And anyone is welcome to that invitation. And I just thank you for that, Lord, because that is against all human nature. But you are not human, Lord. You are God, and you are loving, and you are compassionate, Lord. And I love you for that. Bless all the prayer requests that were given out earlier. Bless everyone as they go home this week. Guide and direct each one of us and use us. And I just love you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, Kara, hit the record button again.